Politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners.
I am the Rambling Madman.
I have this feeling, man, because you know there's a handful of people actually run everything. That's true. It's provable. It's not a I'm not a conspiracy nut.
Motherfuckers are so sensitive, the whole country is turned into bitch-ass niggas.
The other night I called my girl, I asked her could we meet. I said let's go to my house, we could have a bite to eat. And as we walked in through the door, she screamed at what she saw. There was little Pepina doing a cha-cha on the floor.
Alright everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Ramblings of a Madman podcast. I'm your host, Mark Ciccarella Jr., aka The Rambling Madman, and today I'm coming at you with episode 21. And yeah, we're gonna get into the episode today. Like I said, it's episode 21. I every week I talk about like how like astonishing it is to me that I'm like on episode 21. Last week I was like really hyped because I was on episode 20. That's a nice milestone. Yeah, I just think it's really cool that I'm getting all these episodes under my belt, and I'm excited to keep doing these podcasts and moving forward and talking about topics that most people don't talk about and that are kind of frowned upon and prohibited from normal everyday conversations. And with that being said, I'd like to remind everybody, if you're enjoying the episodes and you're enjoying the podcast, please be sure to share, like, comment, wherever you see these episodes. Share them with whoever you think might be interested in seeing this content or listening to this content. It means a great deal to me. Every time you share my work on your social media or whatever, it helps me grow, and in fact you're growing the show with me and you're helping to better the show, because the only thing that can happen from growing the show is making it better. And so I greatly appreciate if you guys do go out and share and like and comment and all that good stuff. And also, like I say every week, if you feel like the show is so good and you want to donate money to the Patreon, of course, like every week, the link to the Patreon is in the episode description, wherever you're listening to the episode, whether it be YouTube, Spotify, my site, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, whatever. The Patreon link is in the episode description. Also in the episode description is the link to my merchandise store, where you can buy Ramblings of Madman hoodies, t-shirts, phone cases, throw pillows, bags, water bottles, you name it. We have a whole bunch of shit. We even have onesies. You can get a Ramblings of a Madman onesie for your child, and your child will be the wokest baby in daycare. And I think that's pretty fucking cool if you ask me. So, like I said, links to the merch store, the Patreon, in the episode description, wherever you're listening to this episode. And be sure to share, like, comment, and that's how we're going to grow the show. So I'm almost positive a lot of you are wondering why I chose that song that I chose to play after my intro, and that song is Pepino the Mouse by Lou Monte. Lou Monte is an old singer, and he did a lot of songs in Italian and in English, like a lot of songs where he would say the words in Italian, sing the words in Italian, and then for the second part of the song he would sing the same words over in English. And so that's that song. The reason why I chose that song is, well, because it's Father's Day in a few days here. So in America it is Father's Day in a few days. And like I said last week, I chose that Johnny Cash song because my father and his girlfriend got engaged. So my dad and his girlfriend Kara, they got engaged, and I chose a song to play after my intro that reminded me of fond childhood memories I had with my father, because it would just make me think about times past and whatnot. And so I chose a similar reason to pick this song this week, and it's pretty much the exact same thing. So I talked about how last week how my dad would play Johnny Cash in the car when we were on long road trips and going to the beach and to the shore to my grandfather's place. And That's true. We did listen to a lot of Johnny Cash, but there was also lots of other CDs that my dad had, and yeah, that was back when CDs were popular. I kind of feel old having said that, even though I'm not really old. It's just crazy how much technology has changed in the past 15, 16, 17 years. And, 15 years ago, everybody had a CD player, and now you don't even need to connect anything to your car. Sorry about that. My mouth had gotten extremely dry. But yeah, like it's crazy how far technology has come in such a short period of time, and it makes you wonder like how much further we can actually go. Like, so 15 years ago we had CDs, and then all the buzz was after the CDs was the auxiliary cord, the aux cord. Everybody wanted a car with an aux cord, and then now all the buzz is Bluetooth, and like, well, I'm not a science guy. I can't describe to you the technology that makes Bluetooth work, but like in theory, Bluetooth doesn't make any fucking sense. I mean, you just press a button on your phone and it fucking connects to the speaker, and somehow the music that's playing on your phone gets transported to the speaker in your car. And it's in my mind that doesn't make sense. I'm not a big technology geek. I'm not very technologically savvy. I know how to record this podcast, but other than recording on Audacity, I really don't know how to do much else. If anybody knows how to get a soundboard for my podcast, I'd love to hear how to do that. ramblingpodcast2021@gmail.com. But yeah, so like I said, it is crazy and astonishing to me how far technology has come. But yes, back when we had CDs, in the time of CDs, my dad had lots of CDs where we would listen to in the car on long trips, and one of them was a Johnny Cash CD. One of them was like a mix of like Italian American songs that were some of them were completely in Italian. Neither of us speak Italian, but they were still fun to listen to. And so another one was like a Lou Prima CD. He had all kinds of like old school hip hop. He had a big ass book of CDs in his car, like many people did back 15 years ago. And so that's why I chose that song, because that was one of the songs that I used to love as a child, because it was a silly song. It was a song from the point of view of part of it was from the point of view of a mouse, and I love the voice of the mouse always stuck with me, and it was very appealing. And talking about Lil Pepino doing the cha-cha on the floor when he brings his girlfriend over, and the mouse scares him, and so I always thought that was a funny song, and I always got a kick out of it when I was little, and so then hence why I chose to play it for this week's episode, which is the Father's Day episode. Happy Father's Day, Dad! I love you, and thank you for everything you've done for me thus far in my life. And so now I'm going to shift into the topic of today's episode, and basically, excuse me there, my mouth is just completely dry today, but anyway, basically I was having a conversation with somebody earlier in the week, or maybe it was this past weekend, anyway, about weed, and I was talking to them, and she was telling me about going to the dispensary, and I jokingly said, yeah, well, I kind of have a beef with dispensaries, and jokingly, half-heartedly saying, even though I do actually have a beef with them, but and I feel like I should explain myself here, and I feel like what we have with dispensaries, and I don't have the statistics for the percentages or the demographics behind the people opening dispensaries, but it feels like to me, and I know a lot of other people share this feeling, that it's mainly upper middle class white people who are opening dispensaries and profiting off of the same business that put many black people, people of color, poor people into jail and prison, and gave them criminal records, prevented them from getting jobs, and just getting stuck into a system. So basically, 10 years ago, before dispensaries were everywhere, you had to buy weed on the street corner, or you had to buy weed from somebody who sold weed, and it was illegal, and you had to. I feel like I'm describing this to like my kid in like 20 years or 10 years, how we used to have to buy weed back in the day. Back in my day, we had to, go to scary people's houses and fucking wait for them to come out of the back room with weed while strange men or people just, tried to talk to you on the couch. But anyway, that's how buying weed used to be, and a lot of people got in trouble for selling weed, and a lot of people still are in trouble and still are getting in trouble. But at the same time, people who are fortunate enough to have enough money to open a business are profiting off of this and doing the same thing just legally because they're paying taxes, and that doesn't really sit well with me. And I just have a few statistics here that I brought up, and I really wanted to point out in regards to race and marijuana. And give me 1 second here. Okay, so according to the ACLU, which is the American Civil Liberties Union, they put together a little PowerPoint-like presentation here in regards to marijuana and statistics about marijuana busts. And so the first number that pops in that catches my attention from their presentation is that states waste an average of $3,613,969,972 enforcing marijuana laws every year. So between court costs, police costs for drug busts and whatnot, and all the shit that goes into stopping people from selling marijuana and using marijuana, they're wasting $3.6 billion of taxpayer money every year to stop people from smoking weed. Meanwhile, at the same time, dispensaries are opening up, and so they're getting tax dollars from the dispensaries, and they're also wasting tax dollars to stop marijuana from being sold illegally. And it's that's an astonishing number to me. Let me read that number to you again: $3,613,969,972 per year. Every single year, the states are wasting to stop marijuana from being used, sold, whatever. In the ACLU's presentation, they also have statistics about just plain marijuana usage in the 18 to 25 year old category. And in the 18 to 25 year old age range, from 2000 to 2010, every year whites were more likely to use weed than blacks. But if you look at the statistics for incarcerations, or not incarcerations, but being arrested, statistics on arrests, blacks are nearly 4 times more likely than whites to be arrested for marijuana-related charges or possession, whatever. So while whites are using it more, blacks are being arrested more for it, which is kind of fucked up. And then they also went on to say, they just took the standalone statistics here and the worst disparities from back in 2010 in Iowa, Washington D.C., and Minnesota, and Illinois. Blacks were 7.5 to 8.5 times more likely than whites to be arrested for having weed, which is kind of again shitty because whites generally use weed more. And the thing that bothers me the most about marijuana busts, and even not to say that anybody should ever be arrested for using. I don't think anybody should ever be arrested for using drugs. Period. Like I said before, I'm an anarchist. I really don't believe in government. I don't believe in arresting people for using drugs. But what's crazy to me is that most of the people who are being arrested, it's not even the people who are doing or who are at the top and in control and who actually do the work. It's usually just fucking small time pot dealers who are just making barely enough money to get by. There's this misconception that everybody who sells pot or drugs of any kind for that matter, that they are all rich and they have Tony Montana money, and that's not true. The movies, you see that in the movies because the movies are mainly about the people who are at the top, and the people at the top are a lot different than the people who are at the bottom, because the people at the bottom are basically retail store workers. the person who works at the corporate level of Walmart makes a whole heck of a lot more money than the person at the cash register when you go to check out your groceries or whatever you're buying. It's the same way with selling drugs. You sell drugs for somebody, you're paying them their share of the money, and you're not ending up with that big amount of money that you got from selling all those drugs. And it's kind of simple, actually, and a lot of people don't really understand that. All right, and the last statistic from that ACLU presentation that I'm pulling these statistics from, that I really want to talk about, is that from 2001 to 2010, 8 million people were arrested for marijuana-related charges, and I just think that's fucking ridiculous. Fucking 8 million people were stopped, arrested, booked, in jail, not in prison or incarcerated, but they were in jail for a moment or two. They were arrested for marijuana related charges, and I just think that's fucking ridiculous. It's literally ridiculous. And this is coming from somebody who I'm not like the guy who says, oh, everybody should smoke weed and it's a miracle drug, because it's not. It's really not, and that's a big misconception that I wish a lot of people didn't have. And I'm not that guy. I don't even really smoke weed myself. The last time I smoked weed, really, I think was about a month ago, and it really made me feel shitty, and it does most of the time. But that being said, nobody should ever be incarcerated for that, or any drug for the matter. But 8 million fucking people were arrested for it, and that's just fucking mind-boggling to me. And I can't understand it. Like, this is something that should have been phased out of our society long ago. Like, arresting any kind of person for using drugs should never happen. It just shouldn't happen. Why do we need to arrest people for using drugs? I'm willing to bet the majority of people who are arrested for doing drugs and go to prison or jail for a period of time don't come out and stop using drugs. I mean, I know how it is. I know people who are junkies and who have went to prison and have come out of prison and are still junkies. It's not like drugs don't exist in jail. You can get drugs in jail or prison. It does nothing but derail somebody's life and really stop them from getting better and getting help. So yeah, I just, arresting people for drug usage of any kind just fucking doesn't make sense. And I really wish we could put a stop to it and decriminalize all drugs. And I could see what if we put that, $3.6 billion worth of money spent on enforcing marijuana laws into helping people who have actual drug problems be rehabilitated. And imagine how many lives could have been changed with that $3.6 billion. Fuck fuck rehab for drugs and shit and alcohol and addiction substances. Just think worldwide or countrywide, all the stuff that money could have went to. You think, like, we have fucked up roads and highways in this world, in this country. We have apparently we have a very bad environment and trash problem here. What else do we have? What can we fix with that? We have homeless people who are suffering and without homes and without shelter and warmth and clothes. That's $3.6 billion. I think we're underestimating exactly how much money that is and the impact that could be made with that and other things that isn't marijuana, enforcing marijuana laws and rules. I mean, just think like what we could have fucking done. And then, just not to get on my anti-Israel tangent here like I do so often, but it just makes you think, like, all the money that we're spending in other countries and in foreign aid and military and imperialism, and all the money we send to Israel so they can kill Palestinians, like all the good things that could have come from that money. All the good things that could have come from that money. The amount of problems and lives that could have been saved, but instead we wasted on killing people and ruining people's lives over marijuana. It doesn't make sense, guys, and I hate it. I hate that we live in a society where money is so important yet wasted by the people who control the society. and we can talk about people on our level being irresponsible with money and blame them for being and blame poor people for being poor, and you just were just lazy and you didn't want to work and this, that, and the third. And well, why would anybody want to work in this society? In this society where the people at the top get all the tax breaks, they waste our tax dollars, and the people at the bottom are the ones that pay all the taxes, or the middle class, whatever. There is really no middle class and poor class. It's all one class. That's what they want you to think, that there's a middle class, so you look down at the poor people and you're like, oh, I'm scared. Like, I think George Carlin actually said this. The lower class only exists to scare the fuck out of the middle class, so they keep going to work. If you just take it into consideration that we're all the same class, the lower and the middle class, they're all one class, we could change a lot. We really could. There's no difference. We're both being fucked by the system, and I really think, or I really wish that we could fucking do right with the money that we use and the money that we have. But $3.6 billion wasted every year on enforcing marijuana laws. That's not right. And like I said, there's a lot of right things that could be done with that money. And while I'm on the subject of drugs and the racial divide and the demographics behind arrests and convictions of drug use and drug sale and drug related crimes, it reminds me of the Kendrick Lamar song. And Kendrick Lamar is one of my favorite modern artists. I don't like many modern hip hop artists. There's maybe 4 or 5 that I do enjoy, but Kendrick Lamar is certainly one of them. And he has a lot of woke shit in a lot of his songs, and it goes very under the radar for most people. But one of his songs, Hood Politics, it talks about how Democrats and Republicans are basically the same thing. They're just an entity of ruling class people who are pitting the bottom against each other, and one of the lines in the song is Democrats versus Republicans, red state versus a blue state, which one you governing? They give us guns and drugs and call us thugs. And I remember when I first heard that, when you hear Kendrick say it, there's a lot more power and emphasis and energy in his voice because he's rapping and he's a performer. And but it's like damn, like he's right. Like I said before many times on this podcast, Gary Webb, the CIA started the Bloods and the Crips. Democrats versus Republicans is what Kendrick Lamar says. The CIA started that shit, the Bloods and the Crips. Is it any coincidence that it's the Bloods and the Crips, red versus blue, just like our fucking political system? I don't think so. But the CIA started that shit. They gave black people in impoverished communities guns, and they gave them drugs, and they told them to sell it. And then what did they do? They arrested them, and they killed them, and gave them guns and drugs, and called them thugs. Just like Kendrick Lamar said. And it's fucked up. It's really, really fucked up how they could do that to people, and just that's the society that we live in. It's just horrible. And then it makes me think about the Meek Mill documentary. Meek Mill is another one of the more modern hip hop artists. He's a bit older now, but he's still a very modern artist, and he recently went through a very public battle with the legal system, in which he was arrested, he was arrested back in the day for apparently or allegedly pulling a gun on a police officer during a drug bust. And the documentary on Amazon Prime, by the way, not to promote Jeff Bezos or anything, but it is what it is. That's what that's the platform that the documentary is on. It's called Free Meek. It's a documentary series. I think it's like 4 or 5 parts, and it's a tremendous documentary. It talks about like how corrupt the cops were that were at the drug bust that arrested him, and how none of that shit went down. And the cops that arrested him were known for like going into like drug busts, and then like they would fucking like take all the drug dealers' clothes, like the expensive clothes that they had in the house, and they would fucking take all the drugs and the guns and the money for themselves. And like that's just what the cops did. They would go in and take all that shit, just like Training Day, the movie Training Day, and which is a tremendous film, by the way. And that shit's real. That shit actually happens in real life. And it talks about like how he was he went to prison, and like he was given, I forget how many years exactly it was he was given for probation. I think it was between 10 and 15, but it was a crazy amount of years that he was on probation. And like it's just like not fair that you would put somebody on probation for that amount of years. And like he says in one of his songs, I think he says 15 years probation, you know you're going to get some more time on me. Like, they just want you to fuck up. That's what they want you to do. They want you to fuck up so they can put you back into the system. And that's exactly what they want to happen. And that's exactly what they did to Meek. And, like, it was very public over the last 5 or so years. Meek got arrested for popping a wheelie on a dirt bike. He was riding a dirt bike in Philly. I think it was Philly. And he was riding his dirt bike on the streets, and he got arrested. And then like they put him in prison for popping a wheelie on his dirt bike while he was on probation. And like it's just stupid shit like that. Like that should never happen. Why is that part of our system here, our legal system? Like what does that serve to prove? Right? Like. First of all, why would anybody even think that they could be in prison for popping a wheelie on their dirt bike in the first place? Like, why would anybody think, even on probation or not, there is no reason why you should go to prison for that? And like that's just what this documentary was about. Is like how corrupt the system was here, and how corrupt the police were in it, and like how unfair the sentence of all those years of probation was. And I really recommend you guys checking it out, because it's really fucking tremendous and eye-opening, into especially living in Philadelphia, or the Philadelphia area. Excuse me, I don't live in the city, but I live outside the city, and it's really eye-opening into the problems that exist here, and definitely all over the country and all over the world, really. But like it's just hit close to home to me because it is close to home, and I really recommend you guys checking out the Free Meek documentary series, and I think you guys are really gonna like it, and it's really eye-opening, and it offers like a different point of view, because I know a lot of my audience, conspiracy theorists and whatnot, they tend to like side with the police, and I don't agree with that. I've never been one of those people who sides with the police. I never understood why, cops or not cops, but Republicans are always like back the blue, and I stand for the flag, and this, that, and like, so my question for them is always, I'm sorry. One of the other things they always say is like, they want their guns, right? They want their guns, and you better come and take them, right? You better come and take my guns. But who's coming to take the guns? If that really does happen, shit hits the fan, and the government is taking your guns, who's going to take the guns? It's going to be the same fucking police officers that you're saying back the blue for. It's going to be the same fucking people, the same military, National Guard, that you're saying, I stand for the flag. It's going to be the same people that are defending that flag that are coming to take your guns. So I never understood that from Republicans. Not to go on a political tangent or a political rant here, but like that always fucking bothered me, is that like the people in this conspiracy community are always like, you come and take them, and then they're like, well, you got to respect the police. And no, you don't. What if we just realize that we don't need police in the sense that we have them today? What if we had our like own police forces, right? What if we had our own communities, and we set watchdogs for our communities and people to protect us, and instead of having like a part of like the government, having people who are basically protected and by this brotherhood that they support, because that's what it is. It's a fraternal brotherhood. They do everything and anything to protect themselves, and like dirty cops exist. There's a lot of dirty cops, and to be honest, I don't really care who I offend by listening to whoever's listening to this. I don't care if you're offended by me saying this, but pretty much every damn cop I've ever fucking met in my entire life has been an asshole. And I've met a few racist cops as well who were not hesitant to say the N-word. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to play a clip from an interview, actually, of Meek Mill. It was a few years ago. What was the date on this? It was actually from December 2018, and so going on 3 years. And it's actually from CNN, and I forget the guy's name on CNN. It's the bald dude with glasses. I don't know. I don't watch the fucking news. But basically, he's interviewing Meek Mill because Meek Mill had made a statement saying that there's problems within the justice system all over this country, and that they're black people in specifically are being targeted, and it's designed to keep people in this system. The system is designed to keep you down on the bottom, and that's basically what Meek Mill says. And the guy from CNN tries to argue with him, and Meek really did a great job at explaining himself here and keeping calm, really, while this guy tried to tell him he was wrong. And I'm going to play it for you. It's about a 3-minute clip, and I really want you guys to pay attention. And so see you on the other side of this clip.
Meek Mill joins me now. Meek, all I wanted was a new Mercedes.
Yeah, how you doing, man? Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
So the words in that video for the New York Times, I want to break them down. You talk about how there's no coincidence when you compare the plantation and the prison. This was the plan since abolition. I think we can reach general agreement among people of all different political persuasions today that the criminal justice system needs to be reformed. But what's the basis for saying that today it's all part of a plan to keep people subjugated?
Just going far back as parole and probation, like a lot of people who go back in and out of prison are being stalked by a parole system or a probation system where not even committing crime puts you back in prison. And I learned from personal experience. I actually spent time with men that had 28 months in prison for a $100 bail. They wasn't even found guilty for their crimes, and $100 kept them in prison. And we had to, taxpayers, even myself, had to pay money to keep guys like this in prison. And it was for like a petty crime. So, and things like that never made sense to me. Even being on probation, I've been on probation since I was 19 years old. I'm 31 years old. Growing up in the system, I always thought this was normal. And I didn't value myself the way that I value myself now. And as I look back at it, just seeing people work in prison for 8 cents an hour, not really be able to pay their dues and pay their debts back to society. They was paying their debts back to the system, and money was being made.
I know, but in the video you say this is part of the plan, that it's all about subjugation of African Americans. And I'm not understanding where's the evidence for that. That we have an unfair system? I get it. Yeah, but that it's all part of a grand design, I'm not seeing.
Yeah, my vision of it is I see that some of these statutes and laws are basically targeted towards a certain group of people where we are like trapped inside of a system that's extremely hard up for us to get out and control. I don't know who made it. I don't know who responsible it became. Many years before me, I was born into this system, into this lifestyle, and I don't feel like anybody is addressing it to try to help fix things. It's a lot of things in the system that clearly don't make sense to the world, but it's going on today, and it's keeping many young black men caught up in the system without even committing crime.
Are you able to square that with the fact that the judge with whom you've had so many run-ins recently is herself African American?
Yeah, I ain't even blame it on like Caucasian African American. I think it's actually a mindset of actually self-hate. I don't think it's really a thing of a certain color, but it's designed to keep people like myself and the culture I come from. You could be white and come from where I come from and born in these conditions and still get caught up in the same design.
And I love that Meek ended that clip there, or that sentence. That's not the end of the interview at all, but I love that he ended it there with you can be white and come from where I come from and get caught up in everything and still get caught up in the system. And so while Meek is trying to bring attention to the injustices of the justice system, really, and specifically to his people, the black community. He's also saying, look, you can be white and this can still happen to you. It's not really at the end of the day, it's not really about race. It's more so about, the bottom. And while it is a big part of a big conspiracy that, black people were designed, or not that black people weren't designed, but this country was designed to keep black people at the bottom, and the system and the society that we live in was designed to keep black people at the bottom. And it's really no secret. Everything in this, everything in the way we live has been designed that way. I mean, like, even the fucking welfare system was designed to take black fathers out of the household. It was designed for black single mothers to have children who are going to be dependent on the system. And that's not a racist thing to say. That's literally what Lyndon Johnson created the welfare system to do. And it's just appalling, the injustices that have been done and the way they've covered them up and hidden them, really. And I actually have a question for you guys before I'm going to actually play another clip from that Meek Mill interview, and it's a longer clip. It's about 4 minutes, but it's really impactful. But before I do that, I want to ask you guys, do you think it's any coincidence that Planned Parenthood exists mainly in the hood, in the ghettos, in the black communities? And not to say, this isn't a debate about whether women should have abortions. I'm not having the abortion debate. It's not about women's health. That's not what this debate is about. My question for you is, do you think it's any coincidence that most of Planned Parenthoods in America exist in the ghettos, and most of the babies that are aborted at Planned Parenthood are black babies? Because I don't think that's a coincidence. And I'm not having the abortion argument. I'm not saying women shouldn't be allowed to have abortions. I'm not saying that or anything. I just think there's a coincidence, and I just think it doesn't sit well with me that the majority of babies who are aborted in this country are black, or by Planned Parenthood, I should say, are black. And I think that might exist. That might be a thing for a reason, and that very well could be the actual genocide that's going on. And like I said, it's not about women's health. It's not what I'm arguing. I'm not saying women shouldn't have access to sexual health or whatever. I'm not arguing about abortion. That's a very tricky argument. I personally, abortion makes me feel weird inside. It makes me feel shitty. But I guess there's more to it than just me feeling shitty, and I don't want to have that argument. Each person's different and each circumstance is different, but I do think the fact that Planned Parenthood exists in mainly the hoods and the ghettos and kills a shit ton of black babies every year should be thought about. And with that being said, I'm going to jump into the next clip of Meek Mill, because it's a longer clip. It's about 4 minutes, and it's basically him defending himself and explaining his journey in this legal system and what he's had to do, and explaining what happened in that initial arrest when he was arrested for supposedly or allegedly pulling a gun on a police officer. So let me go ahead and play that for you, and it's actually a very moving clip, and watching Meek's body language in the video of it, I mean, it's really touching, and I really respect Meek for going out there and saying this shit when a lot of people ignore it. And it's basically this clip is a response to somebody saying, well, if you weren't doing X, Y, and Z, then you wouldn't be there in the first place. And this is what he has to say, and I really think everybody should listen to it.
I'm going to give you the chance, but if you hadn't played by the rules, you wouldn't have had issues with the system.
I always dreamed too of being like on like CNN and being able to express myself and speak for like voiceless young men of America. The first step I would say, I grew up in America in a ruthless neighborhood where we're not protected by police. We grew up with people selling drugs on our neighborhood, on our front steps. We grew up in ruthless environments. We grew up around murder. You see murder 7 days a week. I think if you grew up in my neighborhood, you see 7 people die a week, I think you would probably carry a gun yourself. Would you?
Yeah, I probably would.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you seen your neighbors and family members, or you seen one of your best friends you grew up with get your brains blown out, I think you would want to protect yourself. Second of all, my first juvenile arrest, going to school, being suspended, I didn't want to tell my mother that I was suspended from school because my mom would have to take off from work. She was a single parent, and my father was in the graveyard. So, I was afraid to tell my mom I was suspended. I went to school on a suspended day. That was my first arrest as a juvenile for being in school. I guess the charge was trespassing. And at 18 years old, I was arrested by the Narcotic Strike Force, which most of these guys were federally investigated. Most of these guys were found out to be liars. They lied on the stand and was proven to be liars. I was arrested for pointing a gun at a whole strike force. You know what a strike force? A strike is when 5 or 6 cops come to do a bust. I was arrested for pointing a gun at 2 or 3 cops without any shots being fired. And this is for America. Now we have like cameras and hand cameras. I want to ask you, do you really believe I pointed a gun at 2 or 3 cops without a single shot being fired? A young black man and
I don't know what the underlying facts are. I just don't want to ignore the argument that some make that, hey, Meek Mill's not the guy who should be making this case.
I just want to explain it. I just want to know from a personal opinion, do you believe a young black man in America can point a gun at 2 or 3 cops? Because I'm not the only one that get found guilty for these things. Cops charge people with these things at an alarming rate, and people take deals because they don't have lawyer money or they can't afford attorneys to even fight for their freedom. Do you believe that a young black man can lift up a firearm and point a gun at 2, 3 cops while they're attempting to do a bust with their firearms out and not a single shot being fired? That don't even make sense in America. And I never really spoke on that because I never valued myself growing up in a ruthless environment. I seen that happen to many kids, so it was just normal to me. And as I grew up, I always felt embarrassed being around like my Caucasian friends. And I used to always say, like, do you believe I pointed a gun at a cop? Where I come from, like, I'm on a successful path. I got sense. Pointing a gun at a police officer is suicide for a black young man. I never thought about committing suicide in my life, so that's almost like disrespect to me. And I was accused by another black cop, which things I speak on my album Championship, where I talk about self-hate. So I don't know how people could say that they don't think I should be the face of it. I was wrongly accused. I was sent to jail multiple times for not even committing crime. I've been sent to jail at least 2 or 3 times just for being addicted to Percocets and never sent to rehab. I was sent to jail for popping a woolly. If you follow me on Instagram, which many of these kids in America do, I've been popping woolies on my Instagram across America for the last 10 years, and I never was arrested. The farthest it ever went was a traffic ticket. And my whole message to get across is if somebody like myself who's doing so good for myself, I'm not involved in crime, I've been working, I employ people, I pay taxes, if probation can stalk me down and bring me back to a state penitentiary without committing crime, what could it do to these other kids that are trapped in these environments surrounded by crime and violence? They don't stand a chance. You have thousands of kids that will be destined to be put in prison for the rest of their life. Their beds are already made up.
And I think that's a really fucking impactful clip and a quote from Meek Mill, and I love it, and I love that he said it. And one of the things that really stands out to me from that clip is when he says, like, if you see 7 people die a week, or you see people getting their brains splattered across the street, wouldn't you want to carry a gun too? And I think that's really something to think about. And it's just such an impactful quote, and I love that he went on to say these things, and it really says a lot. And I hope a lot of you who are listening and who may have been on the other side may have been saying, well, black the blue, and we gotta if you weren't doing this and that, and you wouldn't be in this trouble in the first place. It's not always that black and white, and that's exactly what Meek was trying to say, and I think he did a damn good job at saying it. And so I hope you guys enjoyed that clip. In other news this week, President Joe Biden, met with Vladimir Putin from Russia today, and I don't even know what they met in regards to. I honestly couldn't give two shits what they talked about. It's all a big fucking show, and but the Twitter response to the meeting is fucking hilarious. Like, all right, so at Buffy Wicks on Twitter says, "I prefer presidents who stand up to dictators." At POTUS handled Putin masterfully today. Yeah, I'm sure fucking Joe Biden, who can't even fucking string together a coherent sentence to save his fucking life, handled... I can't even say it straight because it's fucking hilarious. I'm sure Joe Biden handled Vladimir Putin masterfully. I'm sure he really took him out to the woodshed. I'm sure he really put him in his place. Yeah, that's... It's just so hilarious because it's like all a big fucking show. Like, yeah, I really believe that Vladimir Putin was put in his place by Joe Biden. And I'm not even saying, like, I have a problem with Putin or Russia or whatever. I'm just saying that Putin is a strong leader and Joe Biden is a fucking, what is he, almost 80 years old man with dementia who can't string together a complete coherent sentence and also talks about kids who like to touch his leg hair. I really believe that's the guy who put Putin in his place, and I don't even have to watch any interviews or any videos of their meeting to say that. I just know Biden did not put Putin in his place. I also read an article from Reuters that said Biden called Putin a killer, and Biden or Putin was basically just like, well, if I'm a killer, then what are you? I mean, regardless of what you think about what's going on with the Russian military and their actions, it's not like Biden's doing anything different. In fact, Biden's giving our tax dollars, in addition to killing people with drone strikes in the Middle East, he's also giving our tax dollars to Israel, who's murdering Palestinians as I'm recording this, really. And so it says the Russian leader went on to say that the Russian leader went on to list what he said he regarded as numerous human rights violations by the U.S. authorities and accused the U.S. military of being responsible for the murder of civilians in Afghanistan and Iraq. Who takes responsibility for that, said Putin. Who is the murderer? And that's what I want to ask you. Who is the murderer? Who takes responsibility for that? Why are we so fucking quick to jump and blame Putin for the shit that Russia's doing, and we don't even know if it's true? How do we know if anything our fucking media says about those countries is true? Because we know one thing, that war creates money. War is the most lucrative, profitable thing on this planet, and if they can make two countries go to war by using the media, the CFR using the media to make two countries go to war, somebody's going to profit off that shit, and that's what they want. But yes, who is responsible for that? Who is responsible for our tax dollars going to Israel? Who is responsible for our fucking murders in Afghanistan and Iraq, the civilians that we killed? Like, it's not all black and white. It's not that simple. Like, Biden is just as bad as Putin. The United States is probably the most evil country that has ever existed. But yet we act like we're the good guys all the time. We act by supporting some social justice causes, we can ignore the fucking travesties that we're doing in foreign countries, and that's just not okay. It's very fucked up, actually, and people are dying and suffering, and it's kind of fucking shitty. But anyway, that's what happened today with the Biden and Putin debacle, and apparently, like I said, Biden put him in his place. I'm sure he gave him the old 1-2 punch and jab. And anyway, that's enough political theater for today. And also this week, I think it's the 18th, so today's the 16th. So 2 days from now, a day after you'll hear this episode, there's rumors that the UFO releases are going to be brought out. Back when Trump signed one of the COVID bills, he started a 180-day countdown for UFO and extraterrestrial information to be released to the public, and that's when it's supposed to happen, is June 18th. So we'll see what they say. I think it's all going to be a bunch of bullshit. Project Bluebeam trying to create war with aliens that don't exist, and fucking you never know what's going to happen. But keep an eye on that, and keep an eye on what I think is going to be them trying to say that aliens exist and possibly, create a fake alien attack and kind of like something like 9/11, and then use that as justification to fight aliens and have war with aliens, and then, just spend more of our tax dollars on things that aren't really what they say they're for. And with that, I leave you. It's a bit of a longer episode today. Not really. I mean, it's about 10 minutes longer than last week, but still a good lengthy episode. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go watch the Sixers. I'm already a half hour late for watching the Sixers, but I wanted to get this episode out to you guys. And so like I say every week, keep on keeping on. Remember that we're all gods out here, and have a wonderful day.